smoking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all. That sounds like a party just about to begin, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm doing the Trump hand thing. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast,
your protection,
and video extravaganza known internationally as the world famous Smoking and Toastin'. We are so glad to have you on board for show number 396, which puts us...
Ooh, that's, hold on, math. Halfway to 500.
Good to know. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I don't know how we're going to make it through a whole show talking about just those things, but we'll manage. Our show is, as I said, craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And on today's program, we're going to talk about, among other things, how to tell good whiskey from bad. So this actually raises a
good question.
A sort of a baseline question, Ian, which I will posit to you. Is there such a thing as bad whiskey?
Yes, it's called grain neutral spirits with color and flavoring added.
Good. So we'll talk about how to tell the difference.
They will call whiskey.
Because there are some, as we've pointed out here on the program before, some very, very good inexpensive whiskeys out there.
And there are some not so good, especially, Okay, yeah. So we got to wait till that segment comes up because I'm about to go into an argument on that.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to it. And just out of curiosity, as a little context for the segment, how much does a bottle of proper number 12 cost?
That has to be talked about.
Yeah, of course it does. Well, welcome again to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We will be doing some tasting on this program from one of our favorite local breweries here, Equal Parts Brewing. We'll be tasting their Oktoberfest. So,
ooh, I haven't had that.
I haven't either.
Man, their lager beer is outrageously good.
Isn't that great? Yeah. And don't they have one called Dad Pills, which I really like? It's kind of like Dad Bod, Dad Pills.
There's a punch cigar out right now called Dad's Home Movies. And
yes,
it comes in the box that looks like it looks like the two VHS tapes.
Yeah, it looks like one of the old school video cassettes. Yeah. I love it. From Cellarmaker Brewing Company in Oakland, California, we'll be tasting their hazy West Coast Pale Ale called Tiny Dankster.
Tiny Dankster.
Hold me closer, Tiny Dankster.
Tony Danza, you have been replaced.
So the first place I ever saw that was a Will and Grace episode. Oh, yeah. But I remember that was something that had been in my brain for years and years prior to that. But I remember in the episode, Grace wanted to make sure that none of the other guys took credit for coming up with "Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza." So that was hers. So we'll give it to the redhead from Will and Grace. Also from Fonta Flora Brewery, I believe this is the first Fonta Flora beer we have.
I don't remember that name ever.
They are from Morganton, North Carolina, and we'll be tasting their 10.5. It is a blended barleywine ale.
Oh.
And it comes in a 750 milliliter bottle. So it's like a bottle of champagne size.
I'm assuming it comes in at about 10.5.
10.5 is my big guess. Yes, we'll get to that.
I'm all over that.
Yep. Cigar Aficionado has come out with a list of 13 long cigars to smoke this summer, and with summer waning, we should, at least here in our home city of Houston, summer's still totally in full effect.
Not waning.
But there are some places where it's beginning to wane. So we need to get to this list before the summer.
It's been a very cool morning outside here in Houston, Texas, because it's overcast and it's slightly drizzling rain, so it's almost chilly. It's 84-ish, 88-ish.
Exactly. So we're feeling all of a sudden very autumn-like.
Yeah.
So we will also, if we have time to get to this, something we've hinted at before. There's a Craft Beer Hall of Fame in the works. So we want to tell you a little bit about that and what that's going to look like.
We had our Mount Rushmore last week.
Yes, that was fun. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Should
have been Mount Gushmore. I didn't think about that.
We'll also bring you our drinking fact. I have not run out of them yet. We're getting close, but we'll get to it a little bit later on in this segment, as a matter of fact. The drinking fact is... I think I forgot to make up the drinking fact headline because
that's the best headline I've ever heard.
What I have written here in my notes is you don't want to drink like a fish in one U.S. state, but that was last week's drinking fact.
Well, hey, let's confuse them.
So let me. Okay. Here, I'll just make up one on the spot. Yeah. Here's why the British are jolly good. That was pretty good for like seat of my pants there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice save.
So we'll get to that. Also, of course, we'll be bringing you the most popular segment on this program, a little something we like to call Drinking News. This is where we bring you a story from the news that is possibly, often, not always, about drinking, but it's always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And today's Drinking News Caesar headline is, let's see if I updated this one. Oh, yeah. It definitely tastes like chicken. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that coming up. We've had. I've had an interesting week. I got to chill out a little bit over this last weekend, which was nice, and smoke some cigars and drink some good stuff. And so today we're going to talk about cigars and drink more good stuff. That's the running plan for when we whiteboarded this show. We had two things: talk about cigars and drink good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to try to follow.
Basis.
Now we don't.
While we were whiteboarding the show, we were actually talking about cigars.
Yes.
And drinking good
And
stuff.
drinking good
And it
stuff.
took us an alarming amount of time to come up with that proposal.
Well, for a long time, there was just one thing on the whiteboard: drink good stuff.
Drink good stuff.
And we go, oh, you know what else? We could talk about cigars.
There you go.
So that was a good thing. Now, not everything we drink on the program is good.
No.
And one of the things we like to do is bring you a little something that we have decided to term the Beverage of Mystery. Now, I should say the Beverage of Mystery is not always not good.
No, we've had
It's
a
just
couple
that-
good ones.
It's just that sometimes the Beverage of Mystery is where one of us will bring in a beverage of some sort, usually an alcoholic beverage. Occasionally it might not be. But we bring in a beverage, we pour it, we sniff it, we taste it, we talk about it, and then we reveal what that beverage is. So the person who brought it is the only person who knows ahead of time. And today that person is me. I brought in today's Beverage of Mystery. We have poured it, so let's get to it while it's still a little cold.
It smells like lemon.
Yeah, it smells, very
It smells like lemonade.
I'm thinking lime.
lime. It smells very
Limeade.
Sprite, like strong Sprite, like the lemon Sprite that they have, like it's a half lemon or a lemonade Sprite they have now.
Yeah, and by the way,
it smells like generic citrus. Let me just put that out.
I like that. Generic citrus.
This
In
is
fact,
citrus flavored.
I wonder how this beverage would sell if they just called it generic citrus.
Generic citrus.
There was a company that made band instruments, and it used to crack me up when I worked at H&H Music because people would come in and very specifically ask for the Jean Eric brand of instruments. This was an actual company named Jean Eric, which is basically generic. You know?
I love it. I love it. I never did buy any of this back when they used to have, when they first started having generic products at the grocery store. You know, they would
Is this Mike's Hard something?
No, good guess. But they would have a box of crackers, and it would just be a white box with black lettering on it that said crackers.
Oh yeah.
And the best was the 6-pack of beer. It was white cans, and it just said beer on the
I remember
cans.
seeing that when I was
Never
when I was
tasted
young.
that.
Like
though.
Archie used to drink.
Yeah, right.
I would see it on TV, and it was. Yeah.
So have you tasted this? Mm-hmm. Thoughts?
It is sweet and quite tart. I don't hate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The aftertaste is not too bad. There's
Yeah.
a little tiny touch of that.
And I have a feeling if
Not
it
as
was,
much as I thought there was going to be.
have
There's a little
feeling
tiny touch of that fake sugar kind of aftertaste, but it's not all
Not as
that
much
bad.
as I
Like
thought it was gonna be.
usually I recoil from that pretty strongly, but this is not that bad.
I get the feeling if this were poured over ice and was just a little bit colder, you might not have any of that aftertaste at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
Slightly watered down, slightly diluted with some ice, and
But nice and cold.
in a pool.
I actually kind of like this.
Yeah.
This is the more I drink it, actually, the more I kind of like it. To be honest with you, it's one of those flavors where at first I was like, well, it's a little sweet, But now that I've acclimatized my palate to it,
you get the tart though to offset that sweet a little bit.
Yeah, and the tart was a little too tart at first too.
But
now,
used to it.
Now, like I said, my palate has kind of adjusted, and
it is a hard lemonade of some sort. It seems like. I mean, that's what I'm gaming.
I was in the elevator.
It's like you know how Sprite has that very specific flavor. This was that off-brand.
Oh yes, like a Shasta.
There you go.
Shasta, and it might be called Sprit.
Yeah,
or something.
Starry is what they call now on Pepsi's Starry.
Starry, okay.
Starry.
There's a reason they changed it to Starry.
It
was Sierra Mist. Yes,
Yeah.
there's a story behind that.
Oh, really? I did not know
the
that.
story.
Well, I've heard the story, but Sierra Mist is apparently a porn star.
Oh, well,
and she's had the name. She was literally born with the name
Wow.
Sierra Mist. So when they sent her a cease and desist order, she was like,
Wow.
Yeah,
that's my name.
That's my name.
I had no idea. I wondered why
And then they
changed
became
it to
Starry.
Yeah, Starry. They were like, we no longer have Sierra Mist at Taco Bell. I'm like, okay.
I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. There may be a porn star named Starry as well. So this whole thing could repeat itself.
PepsiCo.
All right. I had to go down earlier and let Ian into the building because the back door was locked for some reason. And so I got into the elevator, and I swear the whole time I'm riding down to let you in, I was convinced that the lady in the elevator was going to ask me, is that a Beverage of Mystery can in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? But turns out it is, in fact, a Beverage of Mystery can, and we are drinking the Cayman Jack margarita.
I did not get any margarita out of this.
So what's interesting is this has become very quickly one of the most popular of these cocktails in a can. It's actually a malt beverage, which I think you can tell that a little more as it gets warmer. It has a little more of that malt beverage vibe.
Now that you're saying it,
my wife likes these, just for like a pool day or whatever.
Okay,
and having had them ice cold over ice, they are better actually if they're super ice cold.
Even if it's labeled the wrong flavor.
See, I don't get margarita out of this. I get
lemonade,
citrus.
Hard lemonade all the way.
I
get hard lemonade all the way.
Limey, lemony. Yeah. I get citrus thing.
I will just say that Cayman Jack generic citrus didn't sell well, so they changed it to margarita.
Generic citrus.
Jean-Eric
citrus. I think it's actually pretty good.
I do too. I
don't hate this. I would drink this, especially over ice. A nice big tall glass, or in the big what do you call it? Sippy cup.
If judging by the pool at my building,
Arctic or the what's the other brand name?
Judging by the pool
Stanley.
at my building, this and what is this and High Noon Seltzer
and High Noon
and the one that everybody seems to drink. Those are the three that I see all the time. Yeah. And what surprises me actually is the amount of guys I see drinking hard seltzers now.
Oh yeah.
Well, when you hold this can is 12 ounces, but it's not the regular 12-ounce beer can.
Right.
See, like this can makes me look a little bit chubby, where this can makes me look like I'm getting skinnier.
We call there's a term for that. Scientists call it the Michelob Ultra effect.
Plus, it makes my hand look freaking enormous. Look at this.
Yeah. Well, you think that works? Try those tiny liquor bottles from the airplane. You hold one of those, it's like, I am an amazing giant. Colossal man.
I'm crushing your head.
We got to take a break. We'll be back to talk about cigars we've enjoyed this week. Ian has one on deck and ready to go. We'll get to that. Smoking and Toasting is all about craft beer, fine cigars, and great spirits. We'll be all right. We'll all of that when we return. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we are excited to be talking about all of those things. In fact, stall for a minute. I have to reach in my bag and get the beer for this segment.
Okay, I am officially stalling. I'm actually our today's show beer is St. Arnold's Oktoberfest,
and it's so good.
Our show beer is, of course, the beer that we have while we're it uses a palate cleanser, a palate wetter, if you will.
Hey, my friends.
For all of those things, when you're in between tastings.
It's important to have a clear. It's important to have a clear palate. So that's all I'm saying.
And coming on deck while we're drinking this St. Arnold Oktoberfest is the equal parts Oktoberfest.
And I hope this is fair to equal parts because St. Arnold Oktoberfest is one of my all-time favorite Oktoberfest that I've ever tasted from anybody.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know why it's so good. It's just that good.
Will be interesting to see if this stacks up. All I know is it's the one seasonal out of any brewery seasonals here in our home city that when it finally hits the shelves in like July,
August,
I buy it immediately. I don't wait. I buy it immediately.
No, it's wonderful. You wish you could keep it all year round.
Yeah, and by the way, with it now being September,
I don't have a kegerator anymore. My kegerator broke, and so I need to get a new one. But I need to probably build a new one. But this is one that, like, when I had my kegerator, I always had at least one keg of Oktoberfest.
Nice. Well, with it being September, by the way, now, we should start to see Christmas ales almost immediately.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So, weirdly enough, out of all the seasons, so I'm starting to see, just recently some of the pumpkin ales coming out.
Yeah. Oh, I have seen some.
So they actually come out sort of timely compared to the rest, which
that's true.
Come out a little ahead of time.
That's true. But anyway, this St. Arnold Oktoberfest is awfully good. Before we jump into tasting the equal parts Oktoberfest,
you tease me.
Wanted to let you know that the International Spirits Challenge, one of the longest running competitions in the liquor industry. It's been around since 2007. They've been handing out medals across all major categories of adult beverages, and the top liquids receive what they call the Key Tasting Awards. At the end of last year, the prestigious panel of judges doled out the Key Tasting Award for bourbon to W.L. Weller 12 Year. They named it the best bourbon of the competition. And if I'm not mistaken, Weller 12 is it a $40, $50 bottle?
It's when you can find it. The problem is it's allocated. It's a little hard to find.
Okay.
There's a healthy secondary market, which I refuse to take any part of because I find that just abhorrent. But if you can actually find it, $7.50 of that's going to be $40 to $50, depending on where you're buying it. And it is outrageously good.
Now, Buffalo Trace, the distillery that makes Weller 12, among other spirits, they also we had their Chris Stapleton Traveler whiskey on a couple of weeks ago and tasted it up against just regular Buffalo Trace. But these guys are regarded as the world's most award-winning distillery. It makes sense.
Look at the labels they have under Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, I have a label you may have heard of called Pappy Van Winkle.
Yeah.
And that's like overpriced, but amazing.
Yeah.
And wins all kinds of awards. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the Weller 12, of course, is named after legendary 19th century distiller William LaRue Weller. And he was the first, he was the one who first brought Pappy into the world of whiskey making. So a lot of familial ties there for the Buffalo Trace.
I have a secondary market question. How come the distilleries don't just raise the price on their end of whatever it is why don't they just raise the price?
So why isn't Weller 12 $100 bottle of whiskey?
Why don't they just make it $100 just to kill the secondary market? You know what I mean?
Ian?
I think because first off, there's a level of integrity.
Yeah.
Okay. This whiskey is worth this much. I mean,
wait a second.
Buffalo Trace.
But if people are paying
Buffalo Trace has very intentionally kept that price.
No, you're right.
At that price point, at that lower end price point, very intentionally.
Well, Buffalo Trace, if you think about it, they have the best of all worlds, right? Their base spirit, the Buffalo Trace whiskey, is generally always available.
Yeah.
And extremely well priced. I mean, it's a bottle of Buffalo Trace is what, $30?
You say generally always available. However, it went through a bit of a renaissance in the last couple of years and has become very difficult to find until, again, just recently.
But my point is they make lots of it, right?
Yeah, they do make
They
a
make
lot of it,
lots
but
of
for
it.
a couple of years, again, it was kind of hard to find. And still, right now, if you walk into Specs or Total Wine or any of the big liquor stores around here, a lot of the times you'll see they have a big stock of Buffalo Trace, but it says limit 1 per day.
So they're not. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So that just means I have to go back a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's harder to find like the combat bottle, the big
Right,
175.
Yeah.
When you can find it, it's great. But I mean, Buffalo Trace, what a great liquid, and they intentionally keep that price at that price point. It's and I assume they're making money at it. They're selling it out all the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They could
Same
just
thing
make
with
more
Weller.
money.
They're selling out Weller all the time.
Right. Yeah. And Pappy, of course, can be a bit tough to find even at that
But I think
higher
there'd
price
also
point.
be a backlash if you go from, because you know how it is. Okay, so you're Skelly, which when you first started buying it was $40.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
$5.
for the
It's $100, right? It's
Anejo
$100
tequila.
for that same bottle now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it that much better? No, it's the exact same product
It's
you were paying
damn
$40
good.
for.
It's
Yeah,
because
it's
it
damn
won
good.
the tequila.
But I'm going to
tasting.
also tell you that at $100, I got a lot of choices.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So here's the thing. Am I going to buy Weller, which is a remarkable whiskey? Weller Special Reserve. Let's talk about that. That's the 20 something dollars for a bottle, right? Weller Special Reserve is green label. Am I going to buy that for what, $60, $80 for a bottle? Or what they're selling it for now is the regular price, and all of a sudden they jump it up. Well, then all of a sudden I'm in a different price bracket. I'm either going to look for something that's in that price point again, or I'm going to at that same price point have a lot more choices. Where you're kind of diluting your own market if you do that.
Well, and yet it can work the other way too, because my favorite tequila in the world is from Jose Cuervo. It's their Reserva de la Familia Anejo tequila. And when I first started buying it, it was around $100 a bottle. So it was like, that's not something I buy all the time, but boy, you buy it, you keep it for special toasts and special occasions, and you love it. It's now about 50% more expensive. It's around $150 now. But what I would say is interesting is anytime I think, I'm going to splurge on a bottle of tequila. So I start looking at the things that are like $100 plus, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend $100 to $200 on a bottle of tequila. I very often pass everything by and just buy that again. Because am I going to drop $150 on a bottle of tequila and it not be as good as that?
Yeah.
I know how good that is.
Yeah.
So it has that inverse price effect as well.
You start raising prices on some of this. Now I get it. Like everything's more expensive now. McDonald's is $12 now.
Well, does it go through cycles? I mean, like if they're able to make more, say they're able to make more of it, and flood the market more with it and then get it out there more. Is that their better way to combat that? But then, of course, they have to wait till it actually...
But here's the thing. It's Weller 12. It takes 12 years.
12 years, exactly.
Right. No, that's a good point. So you can start
key.
making more now, and it won't benefit you for another 12.
So you can shut that down in 12 years, but not now. Not until 12 years.
And the truth is, a whiskey like that's probably always going to be in demand and in style.
Yeah.
And I bet... when did that demand start happening? I bet they've ramped up the production. So I bet in 5 or 7 more years, we're going to end up with, you'll be able to walk in and just buy Weller 12.
Yeah, it'll be in stock.
And it'll be in stock. You just buy it at the regular price, right?
Yeah, I will say that part of all of this is something that's led me to do something that we often do on the show, which is when we bring in a rum or a whiskey or a tequila, we don't always go for that super expensive one. What I like to do is find something relatively new on the shelf that hasn't been priced into that level yet. So we'll bring in a $30 or a $50 bottle, like today's rum that we're going to be trying. This is the Roble Viejo Ultra Anejo tequila. It's aged, rum. It's aged 12 years, which is a long time for a rum. Yeah. And it was under $50. So this is if we can get onto one of these and share with you that it's really, really good, then you can make yourself a purchase before this becomes, and I'm not trying to give anything away, but before this becomes a $75 bottle.
Yeah,
well, listen,
which is great.
I'm not a person who's gonna cheap on my whiskey or my spirits in general.
Right.
I want to buy good spirits, but there's a specific joy that's involved
when you find
something
totally.
that's kind of inexpensive
exactly.
and
Totally.
really good. And I felt that like when I first grabbed a Weller Special Reserve, that became one of my absolute go-tos. I could find it everywhere. It was at that point in time, and this was just like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
At that point in time, it was $18 for a bottle.
Wow.
Buffalo Trace was $22. So I was like, Buffalo Trace or Weller? Let's see.
I'm more likely to question anything over $50. Anything over $50.
Sure.
That's when I start asking the question.
That's when you feel like, okay, this is taking a bite out of my wallet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Anything over that. Under
totally
50,
good.
I love when you find it and it's great, you know?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we leave ourselves time in this segment to taste this equal parts Oktoberfest. I have on purpose stopped drinking the St. Arnold Oktoberfest since the beginning of the segment, just so I can.
You must
give
be
it a fair
thirsty,
shake.
my friend.
Why do you think I'm bringing this up? Let's get to the
You must
tasting, boys. We'll talk about whiskey another time.
Oktoberfest is a Marzen style. Is what they call it, a Marzen style beer. It's a type of lager that comes out every year, and it's usually got a very malty.
It even says right here,
front.
Marzen style lager.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right there on the
How about
can.
that? And it's usually very malty, and it has this orange, almost orangish kind of color to it. It's a darker but a little slightly orange.
Dude, have you had this before?
No, I haven't tried it yet.
I am anxious to see what you
Equal
think.
parts. Equal parts makes a beer called lager beer.
Yeah.
And you can probably guess what style of beer it is.
Yeah. It's beer style.
It's one of the best of its style that I even know of. It's so good.
Taste this.
So they're just so good. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it is.
That is wow. Oh, it just keeps going.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in love with this already. One sip and I'm like,
If you are a fan of malt in your beers, if that's a flavor that you like,
I love this.
I knew from the first sip you were going to go absolutely crazy for this.
Oh, and it's bitter and sweet at the end too. Both. Oh, with a little bit of crispy. The hops on this are perfect.
It's Oktoberfest, spelled Oktoberfest, Oktoberfest. And I got to tell you, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
Oktoberfest is okay.
particularly good.
It'll be interesting to see how this would have held up. We've done these Oktoberfest blind tastings before.
There's almost a bitter chocolate.
Right.
Like
A
on the
bitter,
way back,
super dark chocolate.
Yeah, on the way back corners of the tongue, there's like this chocolate bitter that just sits there after you drink this. This is fantastic.
It just made me want to keep sipping it.
Oh, it's so
Until it's
good.
gone. Yeah.
We got to get these people, the people from October, from Equal Parts on the show again, because that is fantastic.
You know, we had them scheduled to be on a show,
What happened?
and then they changed owners.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that, but we should.
They
we should go for the new
they were
one.
called. I'm blanking on the name of it now. But they had a different name.
The ownership or the beer?
The company.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, they had their beer was and they changed to Equal Parts.
I'm blanking on the name that they had,
Yeah.
and then they didn't get in touch with me, and literally a week later they became Equal Parts.
Well, we got to go back after these guys again because
We have
this
to.
is fantastic.
They also make great IPAs,
Yes, they do. They make really good.
and they're on
IPAs.
my side of town. So
And they've got a pale ale that is just out of this world, as well as IPAs.
yeah,
But yeah, so these would be some good guys to
they're
get on.
Entropic IPA.
Entropic is
Yeah.
great, yeah. So, but again, this Oktoberfest,
It's pretty outrageous.
Here's what the can looks like. I know we have some B-roll, probably you'll see of this if you're watching the show, but that is one great Oktoberfest, and because it is available only for a limited time, you should grab one if you can get it.
Grab
in your
them and
area.
drink them fresh. Don't save them.
Absolutely. That is the thing to do. Well, we have a lot of stuff we're going to try to cover on today's program. Part of what we'll get to, I'll tell you about some cigars to watch for coming up. And we also have this list from Cigar Aficionado of the 13 long cigars to smoke this summer. Long cigars.
Is that long in length or the
One of my
long, the
favorite
length it
long
takes to smoke
cigars
them?
is the Aladino Maduro.
You like that
Lancero.
Lancero, yeah. It's
Man.
a thin but very long
So
cigar.
good.
We'll see if that makes the list. We are going to take a break and we'll return shortly. And also we'll tell you about the Craft Beer Hall of Fame that is in the works. I'm very excited about this. You know, it's one thing to visit, like, say, the Baseball Hall of Fame, right? I mean, it's fun to see, but I can't play professional baseball. I'd get laughed off the diamond. You go to the Craft Beer Hall of Fame, I'm not just a visitor. I'm a participant.
Not a spectator.
That's right. I'm right
I'm
in there,
actually involved
folks.
in the sport.
Exactly. And so that's what I find so awesome about it. So we'll tell you about that coming up. And of course, drinking news is still on the way later in the program. This is Smoking and Toasting, craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. All things that we enjoy.
Love those
Still to come
things.
on the program, how to tell good whiskey from bad, or bad whiskey from good. Might be a better way to look at it.
there you go.
We'll get to that as we go. We're still enjoying this Oktoberfest from Equal
I like
Parts
to think
Brewing
that
right here
bad
in
whiskey
Houston.
has that bad whiskey taste.
It also could be a great country song, right? Bad whiskey.
Bad whiskey from good.
Your band should work that up. Bad whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad Whiskey River, take my mind. Let me, please, take my mind, please.
Soylent bourbon.
Wanted to tell you about
It's still bourbon, by the way.
Okay, good to know. It's distilled. Want to tell you about the cigar that I had this week. Didn't get to this in the last segment, but I had me some Esteban Carreras this week. I smoked.
You had another one, like, was it last week or week before?
It's
Week before.
actually been a little while. The last Esteban Carreras.
Because you had the Murcielago.
Well, but that's not an Esteban Carreras. That is the Murcielago is an Espinosa.
Oh, that's the Espinosa.
I did have a Chupacabra back in June. It was the Toro.
I alliterated incorrectly.
I had the Chupacabra Toro back in June and talked about that on the program. But this one, as you can see from the picture right up here, this is the Chupacabra Maduro Gorditos. So it's a little, it's like tapered at both ends, has the little foot and has a torpedo type head on it. And it's a short cigar and it's dark and luscious looking, as you can see again in the picture. The Chupacabra line is what debuted in 2012 from the cigar makers at Esteban Carreras. The cigar is named after the mythical creature of legend that has been accused of killing livestock, particularly goats, and sucking the blood from their bodies.
I thought that was Bat Boy.
Like Bigfoot, the Yeti, and the Loch Ness Monster, there's never been a Chupacabra photographed or captured, so they remain a myth.
Oh, then it wasn't Bat Boy, because I distinctly remember pictures of
Yes,
Bat Boy
exactly.
on the
Inquirer.
Yes.
And that was before Photoshop, so
So it had to be real.
Now, unlike Bigfoot, the Yeti, and the Loch Ness Monster, the Chupacabra, I think, seems kind of cool, at least in the way that vampiric creatures of legend might be. I mean, Bigfoot's just this big lumbering oaf of a creature who, gets caught in some Zapruder film footage, and that's like all we have to even point
Right.
to the fact that it might be a guy in a huge costume, might not. But anyway, the Chupacabra, I don't know, just seems cooler to me. In any case, Esteban Carreras has an entire line of Chupacabra cigars, and last week I smoked the Maduro Gordo. Tapered on both ends, as I said. It's a 5.5 by 56 short Perfecto with a dark Oscuro wrapper and all Nicaraguan tobacco used for binder and filler. I snipped off the pointy cap and noted the flavors on the sniff and the cold draw: sweetness, a little bit of spice, some dark fruit, and cocoa powder. I lit the tiny foot and started puffing, and I got what I'm going to call the Nicaraguan pepper nothing. It's probably because of the very small.
I had
you
it
were
in my
reaching.
hand.
I saw at the corner of my eye. I saw you were reaching for the ukulele. No, it was a Nicaraguan pepper nothing. Probably because of the very small diameter of the foot. But the first note was really only a kind of a mild tobacco flavor. So it was a Nicaraguan pepper nothing.
I have nothing.
Okay. I was giving you a moment.
I was trying. I almost had something. I was.
Yeah. So the Chupacabra was a slow starter. That said, once it did warm up, the flavors started coming in fast and furious, like a herd of goats trying to run away from a blood-sucking fictional creature.
Like Bat Boy.
It started with creamy sweetness and then a coffee note, which combined with the sweetness gave me a distinct note of latte. I may be the first to describe a cigar flavor note as latte, but you watch, now everybody's going to start doing it. Latte, earth, fermented
breeze.
tobacco, and a slowly building red pepper. The wrapper cracked on the Chupacabra about 3/4 of an inch up from the foot. You'll see that here. And it seemed to cause the cigar to burn unevenly for the rest of my journey. So I wasn't shy about touching it up with my lighter, and I did have to do so several times. Second, third, latte. Along with caramel, dried fruits, and a smoky meatiness. Pepper on the retrohale. Thankfully, the touch-ups didn't seem to hurt the flavor or make the cigar harsh, and as I worked my way into the final third, the latte note, or combination of notes, was still at the forefront of the flavor profile. I also got more earth, toasted cedar, and the pepper on the finish that finally convinced me that this was, in fact, a cigar made in Nicaragua from Nicaraguan tobacco. One thing to point out about the Chupacabra is it got bigger and stronger as it smoked and got smaller. What started out as almost mild to medium developed into a medium to full by the time I had to let the last nub go.
So our cigars had that in common this week.
Yeah. The Esteban Carreras Chupacabra Maduro Gorditos is an $8 to $9 cigar. And although you can most likely find it online for $1 or $2 cheaper, it might be worth a look. At $9, I'd give it a 4.5 in our price to quality scale, only because of the cracking and burn issue. But if you can find these babies for $6, get you some. And that price to quality score would be more like a 5.5. Suggested pairing, by the way, Bigelow salted caramel iced tea, which is what I had when I smoked it.
Nice.
I was going to say that was specific.
I also suspect it would pair quite nicely with like a Bacardi 8-year rum, or with any rum that has caramel or chocolate notes in the underlying flavors. I'm guessing there may be some in the rum that we'll be trying later on the show.
Nice.
So I'm just saying, I don't know how I would know. But
for those of you just joining us who don't know yet, our price to quality scale is it's kind of a sliding scale between 1 to 10. But at 5, you get a 5 on this. You're getting exactly what you pay for.
Exactly.
A little less, maybe you paid a little more than you want, but doesn't mean it's a bad cigar. A little more, maybe it's punching above its price point.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the Chupacabra. Definitely an enjoyable smoke. Again, it was only the cracking and burn issues that had me rated as less than a 5 at the $9 price. But even with them, if you pick that up for $6, that's a 4.5, even with the cracking. Because like I said, it didn't affect the actual smoking experience other than just having to touch it up.
Right.
And sometimes you have to do that with all kinds of cigars. So, all right, we got to take a break. Still a lot to talk about. Long cigars to smoke for the summer before the summer is completely gone, and more to taste, including an IPA called Tiny Dankster. I'm looking forward to this.
Hold me closer, Tiny Dankster.
Smoking and toasting. We'll be right back to hold you close right after this. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Now, a lot of different industries have halls of fame. I mean, everybody thinks of like the Baseball Hall of Fame and maybe the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But did you know there's also a Hall of Fame for barbers? I'm not kidding.
I didn't know that. I know. If you look at the politics of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it makes me not really want to like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at all.
People are very divided.
Like
on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's so bad.
You think that's bad? The Barber Hall of Fame, you wouldn't believe why some of the barbers failed to make the cut.
Oh, no.
See what I did there? Made the cut. I have had that joke laying in wait since I got this article about the Craft Beer Hall of Fame.
I'm going to start looking for a rim shot.
Yeah.
Did you practice it?
I did in front of the mirror. If my wife is checking out this show, she's gonna say, "See, I told you, you are turning into your father."
That is the 700th time I've heard that joke.
So, no, a lot of industries.
Your wife is a wonderful and dear person, but she does not realize that the more times you tell a joke, the funnier it gets.
Yeah. So I think at sometimes, maybe wishes she hadn't introduced me to you because she almost had me convinced that wasn't true. And then I met you and you affirmed it for me. So, we both believe it. And it is.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be true at that point.
So anyway, since its beginnings almost a half century ago, the American craft beer industry is now set to formally recognize individuals whose efforts have elevated it to become one of America's most beloved drinks. In the last 50 years, the American craft brewing landscape has grown from a few breweries to almost 10,000 throughout the country. And most Americans now live 10 miles or less from a brewery, and American craft beer has spawned a worldwide renaissance in the new brewing traditions, and it's being recreated all over the globe. Beer styles like hazy IPAs are now brewed from Japan to South Africa by craft breweries that are all taking their cues from the U.S. beer scene. So, a Chicago-based beer educator and international beer judge, Marty Nachel, Nachel, who wants to recognize and memorialize the people that make craft beer what it is today. He is working on this project for the Craft Beer Hall of Fame, and it is likely to be located in Chicago. And I find it that once it opens, that will be a bucket list journey.
That's a good reason to go to Chicago.
Yeah, it is. And there's plenty
When's
of
it
good
slated to
reasons
open?
Don't have an opening date yet. It's really
I have
just
questions.
in the planning stages. Yes.
If it's a Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
and I see y'all are very excited about going by there, but the question is do you get to taste each one of these beers?
You damn well better.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just going to be like a picture of, Joe Beer up there with, this is a picture of me and my brewery and I won an award, but you can't taste what
At
they
the very
have.
least, they're going to have a tasting room. Now, they might not have the beers from the
every one of
Will
the
you
awards,
still get that sound of somebody hitting the ball with the baseball bat?
Yeah.
Like when every time they show the baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. But think about this. They're gonna have a tasting room. They'll have to have a tasting room,
Right.
And so they'll have to invite certain beers to be
Has
in
to
the
be the
tasting room.
award-winning
Right?
beers.
Well, but maybe not. It might be
Might be very unique beers
Yeah,
or
right.
very.
So
Okay.
I'm thinking this
Okay.
becomes a new
Specific
cell
beers.
line. Cellarmaker, Tiny Dankster, Hazy West Coast Pale Ale. Invited to be poured at the Craft Beer Hall of Fame.
So
Okay,
this
right,
has
okay,
this
yeah.
has
Not
basically
that it has been. I'm just
No,
saying
just
it would be.
it would be
this
great,
beer,
yeah.
by the way, the art on here. This is called Tiny Dankster.
Yeah.
And it has in a white suit with a purple shirt, and big
Big glasses.
semi heart shaped pink glasses. And of course the matching white fedora. It has
It's a hop. It's a
hops.
Elton Hop. Is what they call it.
Elton hops.
Yes, it's what they call it, Elton Hop. But see, that is
Like the
that
name
is
of
a
a bunny rabbit.
And it's he's sitting on a piano bench next to the piano, and
And
there's
that's
the
a-
Yellow Brick Road.
That's a recreation, by the way, of the
Yellow Brick Road album. Right?
Well, no, it's not Yellow Brick Road. It's Elton John's Greatest Hits Volume 1.
Oh, is
where
it? I was
he's
going to say
sitting-
because Tiny Dancer was actually on Madman Across the Water.
Exactly, but they've included the Yellow Brick Road just so there's no
There's no
question
doubt
about
we're
what
talking
they're
about.
what they're talking about.
Because Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is a different album, and it's very
Yes,
good.
and a very good one. Yes,
But have you tried it?
no,
You should think about that.
it is what the show's supposed to be about. After all,
If we're going to be thematic about these
on
things,
the nose, super citrus.
Yes.
I don't necessarily get dank on the nose, but super citrus.
but it is Tiny Dankster. It's not. It's not.
Okay,
You know,
I get the dank now. There's a
Yeah,
little bit of that
yeah.
in there.
When you
That
taste
is that maybe like some of the more exotic hops, like maybe Mosaic can be a little dank, but I think it's probably more than Mosaic. It's probably
I love
Ben
this beer.
Sauvin or one of those.
Is
really
this the
interesting
Mosaic
ones.
hops? That sounds like that's. I feel like I can taste.
I'm not sure if it lists the hops on the can in anywhere. This is a really good
Hop
hazy pale ale.
Nelson, Citra, and Mosaic.
Nelson
Yeah.
Citra and Mosaic.
Look at you
okay.
getting there.
I can taste the mosaic.
The Mosaic. You know, if I wasn't already married, I might marry this particular beer.
You really like
good.
it, and you're not necessarily the IPA guy.
No,
which is,
this is a fantastic little IPA,
really is.
and it's funny because I call it a little IPA because it's not
Well, it is a
incredibly
tiny
bold.
Dankster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not incredibly bold, but it's a lot of good things, and it's incredibly balanced.
It is well balanced, yes.
And the balance is key, when you're doing an IPA.
In fairness, this is a pale ale, not an India pale ale, but it's a West Coast style, and yet it's got a little of that East Coast juiciness to it.
I was calling it an indie pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
Now, come on, if you just took a sip of this, you'd call it an IPA.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think this is a good question for us to maybe delve into on a future show, and maybe we get somebody who's like a real IPA. Well, Chris Hart, our whiskey expert, he's a real IPA fan. Like he
also loves Montucky Cold Snap.
Well, that's true. Okay, so he's been disqualified. Never mind.
That to me, like
Instant
that's
disqualification.
like if you like pineapple on pizza. It's just it's a little off-putting.
I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to continue to date you. I didn't know this about
And for
you.
those of you who like
Pizza.
pineapple on pizza, yeah, you are weird, and we are
Don't deny till you
strangely
try.
We are
wary of you.
and we are judging you. That's an absolute fact.
We are judging you.
Absolute fact. But no, I would like to get a beer expert, one of our beer expert friends, to come on and talk about what the difference is between a pale ale and an India.
I would have to invite Joel maybe, but then we'd have to have some really bad beers because we always make him drink bad.
All right, so all right. Well, maybe we'll invite one of our, one of our friends from one of the other breweries. But the point about it is, though, that India Pale Ale was so named because the hops that they use, that are such part of the hop profile of IPAs, were basically put in the beer to allow it to keep long enough to make the trip from the British colonies to India.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why it was, I guess, the
India
Silk
Pale
Road sweet sort of.
Yeah, because the hops are preservative.
Right, and they would get the beer. I think they would get some of the beer in India and bring it back, and the hops would preserve it long enough for it to still be fresh.
Wow.
When they got back to,
I mean, they should have just
British Isles.
invented like nice steel kegs back then.
Yeah.
Well,
That's right.
you should have invented refrigerators.
Easy to open pop top cans. Come on now, you could have just done that.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where
Even if it was the little
that's where
pop tops that you peel off and cut your foot on,
But that's where the I in IPA came from. The difference between that and a pale ale, I'm not really sure, because obviously.
So it's
Most
just a PA
IPAs
instead of an IPA.
Most IPAs don't go to
If you
India
toss
now.
this down in front of me and said, what style of beer is that? I would not say pale ale. I would say India.
Yeah, you'd say IPA. I agree.
Because it's got a big hot profile on the back.
And I think of a pale ale.
And a great little amount of dank on it. I like it.
In my taster library, I think of a pale ale more like I think of a Sierra Nevada pale ale, which is almost an IPA.
Your taster library. I like that you have a taster library.
I do. I have a taster.
Is it
library.
right next to your Rolodex of fantasy?
Is that going to be like a new person on the new Inside Out?
Nobody knows what a Rolodex is anymore.
Yeah, that's right. A Rolodex of fantasy, which is kind of like something that has two words that rhyme, and the second one is bank.
But see, I'm thinking from like, the new Inside Out movie came out and they had added anxiety this year and someone else. And I'm just thinking there's one taster fellow that's
the hop dude.
The guy.
He would be
he
because you know
just
how the
tastes
others are
things.
shaped like a bolt of energy or a drop of
something.
water,
Yeah,
and this animated guy would be like a hop.
He's
just
a hop.
just like the tiny Dankster is
right.
a hop. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And by the way, just not that it's apropos to the beer, but I love the nod to Elton John.
Yeah.
And Elton John is, to my knowledge, the only artist who has had a top 10 hit in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and our current decade. He has made it into the top 10 on the pop charts in every one of 6 decades.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
I used to have a paper route.
Yeah.
And on my paper route
was Elton John's house.
was
You had to throw that paper really far.
real far. No, on my paper route, you would run across like yard sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you're delivering papers, and I was riding my bike, and I remember buying the album. For probably a nickel or a dime or something like that, buying the Madman Across the Water album.
Such a great record.
And I picked it up because I recognized the name Elton John, and the album looked cool.
And you bought it at a garage sale.
And I bought it at a garage sale, went home and put it on the record player, and I have been listening to it ever since.
Ever since that
So
day.
good. I had no idea what I was even buying.
I will tell you this briefly. In my radio career, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of different celebrities and interview a lot of different celebrities, and it was one of the really cool things about that gig.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I noticed after doing it for just a year or two is that it usually turned out that the bigger the star they were, the nicer they were. The ones that had attitude were kind of like the one-hit wonders that came in.
Just got big.
That just got big. But the big stars were so nice. And I took some listeners backstage in St. Louis, Missouri, to meet Elton John. And they all went back there, and he signed everything. And he was wearing a red leather suit. It was like a red leather bodysuit, very striking. It was what he was going to perform on stage. And I remember saying to him, that's quite a suit. And he looks at me and goes, yeah, he goes, and it's hot as S too. I mean, but he didn't say S, right? And I thought, I love this guy. Like he's just so not afraid to go, yeah, and I'm like dying over here. It's hot as S. And that was the same show. I don't know if I've told you the story before, where while we were backstage with the listeners meeting Elton, I was back there with a buddy of mine who worked for the radio station, who is now at WMMR in Philadelphia. He's part of the morning show there, Preston. But in any case, Preston grabbed a copy of the set list. Just there was this big stack of them all printed out. Yeah. And so we were sitting down. We had really, really good seats for the show. And it was Elton John and Billy Joel. So Elton John does half of the show. Billy Joel does half. And at a certain point in each set, they do one of the other person's songs, and at the very end, they do a song together.
Dueling pianos.
Right. So, and they alternated as to who goes first. Elton John went first in this show. We had the set list. So my buddy and I, when he would finish the song, we knew what was next, and so we'd yell it out like we were requesting it. We'd be like, Tiny Dancer! And so after about 4 or 5 of these, and we're getting them right every time, people start looking at us like, what is going on? Why are they getting to request all this? And then we look down at the sheet, and the next one's like, Piano Man. And we go, oh, this is going to be good. And so he finishes the song. We're like, Piano Man. And he goes, I'm going to do one of Billy's songs now. And he goes into Piano Man. Brilliant. The people were looking at us like we were gods, concert gods. And
it's like you had the sports almanac from 1985 from Back to the Future.
Right. Plus, by that time, we'd been drinking a lot. So it made it all that much more fun. It makes it much more
funny, yes.
Yeah, we got to take a break. We will be back. We're getting closer and closer to drinking news, and we got a lot more to talk about, including how to tell good whiskey from bad. It's Smoking and Toasting. Almost like a percussionist there. I like that.
Like I was trying to be along with the music.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian's pouring what I think we are going to likely find is a fine spirit. I did bring this one in today, and as you'll notice, I took the precaution of removing the plastic wrapper on the top of the bottle.
You did. You made sure the plastic wrap was gone. You also cleared the neck to help alleviate some of the spoilage, not spoilage, but spillage issues.
Right. And I was really worried because this was such a tall bottle that just clearing the neck might not be enough. So I cleared a little more.
A little bit further down.
Cleared a little more.
Safety first on the show.
Neck.
It's a bit of an angel share.
Yeah, that's what I'll call it. Yes.
OSHA would be proud.
Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're going to taste this fine spirit in just a moment. But first of all, the whole thing about how to tell a good whiskey from bad is really actually fairly simple. According to a whiskey expert, Robin Smith, the answer can be a little more complicated just because some people are going to like one style versus another. I think,
honestly, it's probably almost the exact same way you tell an oral thermometer from a rectal thermometer. It's the taste.
I think that's good to know. While some... While
The
some
taste will definitely
may
let
love
you
a
know.
smoky, peaty sort of thermometer taste, I mean Scotch whiskey, others might not. And Smith says that personal preference could enter as a gray area with quality. For example, some view overly smoky notes as a flaw, while others view it as a style. Similarly, the struck match note that you get in some scotches made with worm tub condensers can be considered insufficient copper contact during distillation to some, while others view it as a part of the house character. Still, there's some universal signs, she says, of lower quality. So one is that it smells and tastes strong, but it isn't at a high proof or cask strength. In other words, the strong is not coming from the fact that it's higher proof.
Let me translate this for the layman. Mm-hmm. That's rough.
Yeah. That's rough. Yeah.
That's rough. That's rough. That means what you're getting is something that has been watered down to 40%, just like everything else. But boy, is this not going down easy.
Another is that it smells and tastes one-noted. She says complexity is the sign of a high-quality spirit. But with that being said, personal preference still plays a big role. But you want to make sure your sniffing technique is on
We
point.
aged it in peanut butter barrels.
Yeah. And then the final point on this is that good whiskey doesn't have to break the bank. But the author of this article says even though they have shelled out money for big expensive bottles before, they're always on the lookout for affordable whiskey. We talk about that a lot here on the show that's good enough to sip neat, like they mentioned Buffalo Trace. And lucky for us, Robin Smith, the whiskey expert, says a whiskey does not have to be 30 years old or cost hundreds of dollars to be worth drinking. There's some amazing whiskeys that are young and affordable and leagues above older and much more expensive.
You know what's affordable and worth drinking?
Yeah.
Old Granddad Bonded.
Dude, that is really. You remember when we did our
quality house,
our lower shelf whiskey,
bottom shelf taste test? Yes.
It was the Old Granddad that emerged,
and that wasn't even the bonded one. If you get the bonded one, it's a notch up. It's
and how much is the bonded?
$21 for a liter, I think.
I'll be stopping at the store on the way home.
And you know what? I'm not going to tell you that it's the best whiskey out there, but at its price point,
you can't beat it.
First off, in any situation, if you hand me that whiskey, it's very drinkable. It's good.
Yep.
It's a good whiskey. Is it as good as Buffalo Trace? I'd probably choose Buffalo Trace most of the time over it. However, it's real good and it's even cheaper than Buffalo Trace.
Remember that time? I think it was last year.
Back in band camp?
No, remember that time, when you got me that gift? It was like birthday or Christmas gift and it was a bottle of Eagle Rare.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I just wanted to say it was awesome.
It was awesome.
Well done, sir.
I would like to taste this rum now. And this is the Roble Viejo. And Ian pointed out something interesting.
Casa Roble.
Yeah. Ian pointed out something interesting, and it was that this is what you call a single vintage.
So it says 12 años. Single vintage rum. Now, I like that they made a distinction on that because in the world of rum, when you age statement a rum, that is the statement that says this is the youngest whiskey in that bottle, but it's generally a blend.
But yeah.
Of whiskeys, but the youngest one is that. Rums. But the youngest one is that.
Right. So you might have a 12-year and an 8-year and a 4-year, and you would have to call that a 4-year.
You'd have to call it a 4, right? So when you get like a Florida Caña 7, right? The youngest whiskey in there is 7 years old, but it might be a blend of.
Again, I'm going to mention that it's rum.
More 8. Sorry, I keep saying whiskey. I'm sorry.
I still want to confuse.
What do I usually talk about? Anyway, my bad. So the youngest rum would be 7 years old with some other stuff that is older blended in. But this is actually, because they make that statement there, the single vintage rum, meaning it's a single rum. It's not blended. It's from a single barrel.
Guys,
coming in at 12 years.
This rum is fantastic.
It is
really good.
It's one of the best I've
delicious.
ever tasted. It's that good.
It's really good.
It's upper echelon. It's got chocolate. It's got caramel. It's got like this
almost a carrot cake kind of flavor on the retrohale. As weird as that may sound, it's delicious.
Well, yeah, you know what? The icing in carrot cake is delicious. That cream icing.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm just going to say this.
Oh, the kind of a powdered, sugary kind of note too in the retro haze.
I want to
so
say
good.
this is about a $45 bottle of rum, and all I have to say is buy it before it
We're
goes
shutting
up.
this show down. We're not talking about this one anymore before it
that's
becomes.
right. Okay, drinking news is next.
No, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. This is now you can understand, because often I will open up a bottle that I'm going to bring in to clear the neck and take out but you can see that once I did that, I kind of kept going.
The aftertaste has
Because obviously.
Yeah.
a beautiful, bitter, kind of astringent wood, very oak, but almost a new oak kind of.
And we'll talk more about it when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Time for some blues, y'all. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Whenever I think about like a blues guy with a really deep voice like that, I always think about on The Simpsons where Lisa Simpson's blues friend was Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Yes.
That's the greatest. There's so many subtle jokes on The Simpsons that it's just sometimes they're better than the actual dialogue jokes.
Yes.
Just the little things that they throw in there.
Also, I did own the Simpsons Sing the Blues CD
Oh,
that did come out.
Yeah.
Yes, I still have it somewhere.
Was that the one that had everybody do the Bartman
Yes,
on it?
Yes, it did.
Which
yes,
doesn't
it
strike me as a
absolutely
blues song. But
had. No, but it had. I think it had that on there, but it had a bunch of Lisa stuff too.
What's amazing is not that The Simpsons got so hot that it spawned like an album like that, and really
was it
a horrible pop culture song? But it's that they're still around. They're still on the air. Unbelievable. After like 48 seasons
and
or something.
now anything that happens, everyone says The Simpsons predicted it. Even The
that's
Simpsons
right.
are like, really?
Yeah.
Like, come on. We were just joking.
We predicted The Simpsons. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know Ian is working steadfastly on opening up our thing, but I wonder if I could trouble you to pick up the ukulele.
This beer. All right.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
That is not
I
OSHA
refuse to
fixed
be
up for
defeated.
OSHA.
I hope that we do, and I hope that you will get that open while we
I'm going to give it the 5 fingers of death in a moment.
while
here.
we do 5 Finger Death Punch. Let's do a little drinking news, my friends.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Bleeding Gums Murphy here.
Bleeding gums.
Drink News is the portion of the program where we bring you a story from the news, somewhere in the news over the past, a week or two, or sometimes slightly
It has news-like
more.
qualities.
Yeah, has news-like qualities. These are not parody stories like from The Onion. These are things that were reported as actual legitimate news. And today's edition of Drinking News is kind of like what album rock radio stations used to do back in the day. And who knows, maybe they still do it if there still are album rock radio station. I don't know. I haven't listened to music radio in a long time, so maybe this is
We
still
need
a
to
thing.
start up like a Freedom Rock Radio.
Hey man, is that Freedom Rock? Well, if you're a Freedom Rock or a classic rock fan, you probably remember that jolt of excitement that you would always get when Monday was done and in the books, because you knew you had an extravaganza planned for Tuesday by your local rock radio station. You remember this is where stations would decide to do a totally outrageous
I know where you're
and
going with this
completely
so much.
unprecedented bit of programming.
Oh, wow.
Where they would play not one,
But
two songs
Wait a second. Hold
back
on.
to back by each
Hold on.
artist all day.
Are you talking about 2 for Tuesday?
Yes, my friends. I'm talking about that wild and crazy invention from some programming genius of the outrageous concept called Two for Tuesday.
Two for Tuesday.
Almost as brilliant as when they used to refer to the month that follows September as Rocktober. Yeah.
Oh, I would have called it next timber.
Yeah. For those who are new to the show or don't know me all that well, it might be pertinent to point out that everything I have just said was laced with just a tiny, tiny little bit of sarcasm.
There was also bitterness in there. The bitter is strong in this one.
But
not this rum, but in my my host.
Just
friend
because
here.
I think that 2 for Tuesday was actually a ridiculous way to hype the simplest idea of playing 2 songs doesn't mean.
By the way, that's been taken over by Taco Tuesday, which is way
cooler. Yeah, way cooler.
better.
I like tacos. But just because I think 2 for Tuesday was so ridiculous does not mean that I won't rip it off for today's drinking news. Now, true. It's probably not Tuesday when you're listening to this, but we're still going to do a 2 for today because it's a way for me to throw in a story from back in 2016 that I haven't mentioned here before. Of course, we weren't doing drinking news in 2016, so at least I have that excuse for missing this one. But the first story in our 2 for today is the story of a Louisiana man.
Louisiana man.
An outspoken hater who was the president of the Family Research Council, which, by the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center classifies as an anti-gay extremist hate group. His name is...
Brave the gay away.
His name is Tony Perkins, and he made a career out of insulting and railing against LGBTQ people, including saying that God sends natural disasters. Yes, I'm talking about floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes to punish these gay people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no wonder he's mad at him.
Yeah.
No.
If you live in Louisiana.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard of people in Louisiana saying
sends
that because
gators
of
too?
Katrina and all the... Yeah.
Of course, even though his assertions are completely unfounded,
Of course.
it is not without a certain bit of irony that a natural disaster, which hit the state of Louisiana in 2016, wait for it, destroyed Tony Perkins' house.
Destroyed Tony Perkins' house.
Should have lived in proximity.
We'll file this under the 8-year-old drinking news. We'll file this, rather, 8-year-old drinking news story under
Live
poetic
next to a trans person,
justice.
apparently.
Some have suggested that the massive Louisiana flooding in 2016 actually destroyed almost all of his house, but that his closet was the only thing left standing. We must...
So, is that where he was hiding?
Irony.
We must stress that Drinking News has not been able to confirm that particular detail. And so now we turn our attention to the second story in our twofer. This one is the story of an Illinois woman.
I don't have anything for Illinois.
Yeah, it doesn't really lend itself.
Illinois
does it?
doesn't rhyme with
Yeah.
anything.
She's a 60-year-old woman named Vera Liddell, who spent 10 years as the food service director at Harvey School District 152 in the Thornton Township area
We're
of the Prairie State.
rectangular pizza.
To quote a band that I actually don't mind hearing a twofer from, Pink Floyd, Vera, what has become of you? It seems that what became of Vera is that she has just been sentenced to 9 years in prison after she was convicted of stealing $1.5 million worth of chicken wings from the district during the height of the COVID-19
confused
pandemic.
now. During the
$1.5
pandemic?
million worth.
You know what I need
Of
to make
chicken
me
wings.
some money?
Yeah.
Chicken wings.
According to prosecutors in the case,
Wait a second. Wait
Is
a
that how
second.
much
I've had
money
high
she-
school food before because I, have been in high school. How many chicken wings do you need to make 1.5 million? I can't imagine those are the highest class of chicken wings.
According to prosecutors in the case, our lovely Vera, from July of 2020 to February of 2022, ordered over 11,000 cases of chicken wings from the school district's food provider, Gordon Food Services.
Where do you
good
keep
stuff.
that?
And picked them up in a district cargo van. That, my friends, is a lot of chicken wings.
That's a serious block party.
Where do you keep that? I mean, do you just sell it immediately?
Students were learning remotely during the pandemic, but the school district did still provide meals that families could come and pick up during that time. Court records indicate Gordon Food Services employees were familiar with
These
Liddell.
families sure love the chicken wings for sure.
And I'm quoting the records here. They were familiar with her, quote, due to the massive amount of chicken wings she would purchase, end quote.
She got a basket at the end of the year. they sent her a gift basket at the end of the year for ordering so many chicken wings.
The school district's business manager suspected foul play. See what I did there? Yeah. Suspected foul play when a mid-year audit determined that the district was $300,000 over its annual food service budget. So school officials discovered individual invoices signed by Liddell for massive quantities of chicken wings. And here's the best part. The school actually never served chicken wings to students because of a district policy against serving food that contains bones. I suppose because of the
kids
potential
can't have,
legit. Yeah,
because
that
kids
sounds
can't
legit.
have bones because
Yeah.
nanny state. Sorry, go ahead.
Liddell was charged with theft and operating a criminal enterprise in January of 2023. She pleaded guilty to the crimes and was recently sentenced to the 9-year prison sentence that I mentioned.
You're not answering the real question here.
Yeah?
What the heck did she do with all the
Yeah,
chicken
did
wings?
she
Well-
sell them or did she start her own business?
As usual, our crack team of investigators here at Drinking News have dug in, and done some research. And here
We done it?
here is what we've discovered. By consulting that bastion of food information and consistently late delivering service, Instacart, we've been able to determine that a case of small chicken wings typically contains between 280 and 360 individual wings. So if we go with a conservative estimate of 300 wings per case, and we know that the Illinois woman ordered over 11,000 cases, and then we also know that the Harvey School District's total enrollment is about 1,600 students.
Students love them wings.
Carry the one. That would have amounted to 2,062 chicken wings per student over a less than
boy.
2-year period. Bafflingly,
I mean, that seems reasonable.
prosecutors, the school district, and police all say they have no idea what became of the chicken wings,
Wow.
nor how many of them Vera may have eaten.
What?
And as those of you who are Drinking News regulars know, and are most likely already dreading, these kind of stories often cause me to wax poetic. And since we all understand how important it can be to express oneself, I will now horrify most of you by sharing with you here my inspired prose. Can I have a little poetry reading music, please? And it goes a little something like this. A woman named Vera was stricken with a thought that made her pulse quicken. It turned out, epic fail, now her ass is in jail, where they feed her bologna, not chicken. Reporting live from Illinois, where instead of ordering chicken wings or even chicken fingers, I think I should order some chicken thumbs. I mean, there must be accumulating. My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. By the way, I stole that last joke from the late Mitch Hedberg, one of the funniest and most frequently intoxicated humans who ever
Mitch
lived.
Hedberg.
I loved Miss Hedberg so much, and I never knew that over at the Laugh Stop that the pillars that were on either side of the stage were fake until Mitch Hedberg decided he was going to lean against one time during a show and almost knocked the whole thing over. Oh, that's not real.
Dude, that guy is hilarious.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. But
He said,
left
I love escalators. They can't break. They can only become stairs.
I love that.
Sorry for the convenience. The escalator is temporarily out of order. Why is he so funny?
I don't
He
know.
was
His one-liners are so good.
Because he was the original stoner comic. I mean,
Well, you know, but Stephen Wright too. They're kind of in the same thing. And Stephen Wright was brilliant too.
Yeah.
we better taste, speaking of brilliant, and I don't know if it will be or not, we better taste this very expensive half barley wine called 10
It was
Points
expensive,
5.
was it?
Yes, it was.
Well, you remember when you were talking about how to tell good whiskey from bad? Mm-hmm. This would be badass barley wine.
Badass.
Yes.
I thought you were gonna. Honestly, I thought you were setting me up to say that you thought it wasn't good.
I know. I wanted you to be like,
You did. You kind of worked it.
I wanted to tear you down before I built you up again.
All right. So what is it about this? What is it about this barley wine that you love?
So straight up, first off, this is very English style barley wine, and I know it says half barley wine, but this comes across as more barley wine than a lot of the barley wines I've had recently.
That have not been half; they've been full barley wine.
Blended barley wine ale aged in tequila and bourbon barrels. This is very difficult to read.
I can kind of pick up on a little bit of that tequila barrel.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like the finish on this gets such an interesting
very
twist.
complex.
But it also has that very oaky finish too. But man, right up front, this is traditional barley wine. It's English style barley wine. This is what I love. I would drink this floating down the river.
This is actually quite good.
I would pour this into my
syrupy.
Yeti cup and sip it from a straw and be happy.
It's syrupy, although I will say
It's ridiculous. It's
for
thick.
For a barley wine, though, I don't think it's quite as viscous as some that we've
I
tried.
agree with you. It's not like the syrupiness that some of them are like that. But then again, I like this, but it's not as sweet as some of the fun stuff that we have sometimes, like the s'mores
See, it's
and
very
stuff.
strange to hear someone say when they're drinking a barley wine and saying it's not as sweet as, because this is super raisin and date right up
It
front,
is
like
dried
pow,
fruit
like
for
a
sure.
punch. It doesn't finish as sweet as some of those things.
Some of the ones where we have the marshmallow or the
Right,
s'mores
right,
when
when
the
you have-
candy
Right,
ones,
true.
the
But
chocolate ones.
and it does have a little spice to the finish as well. There's almost a little peppery kind of thing going on in there.
I get that.
All right, we're going to continue to try this, and we're going to go back and forth with the rum and the barley wine when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We've been enjoying some craft beer that is from Fonta, Flora Brewery. These guys are out of North Carolina. They're Morganton, North Carolina. And this barley wine style ale, a blended barley wine style ale that was aged in both tequila and bourbon barrels. And it's got some richness to it. That's for damn sure.
It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
It's this is the kind of barley wine that I love. It's rich, it's ridiculous, it's fruity, it's oaky, and when I say fruity, I mean dark stone fruit. I mean like
and
there's
dried fruits,
like
date.
dark cherry in the back of there. There's dark bitter cherry. There's raisin. There's that date note. There's that like that and then that oaky finish, which is absolutely loving this.
We've had on today's show, I think, one of the better rums that we've ever tried on the show. Excuse me, it's the Roble Viejo Ultra Anejo 12-year rum, and the rum is all 12-year in the blend. It's not a blend of different years.
Before you try this,
Yeah,
this is called half birthday wine, right?
yeah,
I want you to take a sip of that, and I'm going to say one word.
of the rum.
Yes, of your rum. Birthday cake.
Yes, especially on the finish.
Yeah, it like you get that rich icing.
Oh
that-
yeah. Yeah, you're right. Now I get it. Yeah,
Like it makes that rum taste like rum infused birthday cake. Hey, that's not a bad idea.
I feel like I need to know more about Fonta Flora Brewing in Morganton,
that's
North
really
Carolina,
good.
because that's the first thing we've ever tried from them, and it is just exceptional. And this is not an easy beer to make,
no.
you know?
And I love barley wines. Hey, anybody out there that works at a brewery, please make more barley wines. I love them. I know that the general public is like, WTF barley wine, but I love them.
You don't have to make a lot of them, and you can make them really expensive.
Just
like
make
this
them
one.
and send them to me. I'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
it's like a $50 bottle of barley wine.
Yeah, and it tastes like it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, but seriously, it does.
That's amazing. This
by the way,
barley wine costs more than the rum.
It's a big one, though. If you think about it, it's like this is like a champagne bottle or a wine
Yeah,
bottle.
That's
right?
a 750
you
ml,
could
yeah.
chill it,
Champagne
yeah.
bottle, yeah.
Yeah. So
Which
so
is
it's,
and it's so good.
and it is much like a fine bottle of wine or sparkling wine, which is when you open it, you're going to need to dispense of the whole thing.
Yeah, you have to drink
Yeah.
it. Like this is not gonna. It's not gonna wait. So that means we have to finish this for you.
Great for
now.
parties.
This is not as brutal on the alcohol as some barley wines. Like this is 10.5, which is actually I would consider almost light for a barley wine.
Agreed, because they're often in the almost 14 or 15
14 range. Yeah, 13, 14 range. Boy, is it delicious.
Well, this has been a pretty successful show in terms of what we've tasted.
The interesting thing too is it turned. Pardon me. It turns the Roble into the Roble rum into like a birthday cake, which is delicious.
And
But when you go back to the barley wine, it has almost no effect on the barley wine.
right, that's true. And you think a rum like this would kind of have an effect on it, you know?
This barley wine would beat up most cigars. You would have to have something that is either very grassy.
How about one of these CAO triple Maduros?
Oh, I love those. I just ordered some of those.
That could work.
I just ordered some of those.
The 3X or whatever they call it, that's triple Maduros.
Yeah, the triple Maduros.
I feel like the richness of the Maduro would work with this.
Yeah, I would also think that a Serie R Maduro.
That's a pretty serious cigar.
That is
Yeah,
aroma
it
de
really
Cuba,
is.
but it's also such a chocolate bomb, and would probably match up with this. But I would almost go sometimes even opposite, maybe something a little spicy, and with a little bit of like fermented hay kind of thing going on. You know, Jaime Garcia.
Oh yes, the Jaime Garcia from my father.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like that would be probably something really interesting with this particular.
Because that is a spicy cigar.
It is a spicy cigar, and this has so much of the sweet with just a kiss of spice in the back.
I'm loving this. I got to tell you.
So fun.
Just real quick, because we've been talking about giving you some cigars to watch for, and we haven't really done that in the last couple of shows. And there's some interesting things coming out that are either on their way to your favorite tobacconist or may have already arrived just recently. One of them that is that EP Carrillo, one of our favorite cigar lines.
I will try everything EP Carrillo.
They're continuing their expansion of the Essence series of cigars with the launch of EP Carrillo Honduras. It's the third line in the series. Unlike the Sumatra and Maduro, which are already on sale and made at Casa Carrillo in the Dominican Republic, this new smoke is the first in the line to be rolled in another country, specifically in Honduras. That's why it's the EP Carrillo Honduras. It's being rolled at one of the Placencia cigar factories. Ernesto Perez Carrillo III, son of veteran cigar maker Ernesto Perez Carrillo, led this project. So this is like the new generation.
Honduran cigars have such a specifically earthy.
Right. And this one is really heavy on Honduran tobaccos. It's got a wrapper that's Honduran, a Honduran binder, and a mix of Honduran and Nicaraguan filler. So it's going to be available in three sizes, a Robusto, a Toro, and a Gordo. Prices range from $9.25 to $10.75.
I'm totally on
and
top of
they come
that.
24 to the box. So it's not like
That
one of those
Maduro
things.
is fantastic.
It's not like one of those things that's going to be priced out of your
Right.
out of your tasting range. It's one of 6 distinctive blends planned for the Essence series. Sumatra was the first. It came out in March. The Maduro was announced in May. Connecticut, Nicaragua, and Cameroon are all expected to follow in the future. So that's something to look out for. And real quick, Texas-based cigar maker Southern Draw Cigars is
Robert Holt, love the guy.
celebrating 10 years in business, and to honor this milestone, releasing a new cigar called the Decennium, the Latin word for a decade.
Nice.
Retailers are already beginning to get this cigar. And while previous Southern Draw releases were produced in Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez, Decennium makes a departure for the company as it is made at El Titan de Bronze, a small factory run by
that's in
Sandy
Florida.
Copas in the Little Havana neighborhood of Miami.
Yeah.
Portion of sales are being donated to a charity benefiting the neighborhood. So it's a one-size cigar, a Lonsdale, and they come in cardboard packs of 3 cigars, which retail for $44.99, so they're about $15 each.
I will try that. I love the Cedrus.
Yeah.
I love the Manzanita. I love a lot of the
Southern Draw owner Robert Holt says that several more collaborations with El Titan de Bronze are expected in the future. So we have that to look forward to. We also look forward to next week's show. Let's see if we can top the spirits and the beers on this week's show. That may be a tall order.
Today was beautiful.
Have
Beautiful for
have
spirits.
a
and
wonderful
beers.
week, my friends. We love you, and we toast to you, and I'm two-fisted, and cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Still love me, yeah. Ditch that guy. We'll go outside. I know where we can do it. Yeah, I go. Yeah, I've been told.